So Skool just updated free trials and freemium communities to add additional new features. And when you pair that up with the fact that we've seen a shift towards low ticket and even paid groups recently, the question now is what setup or model is going to be best for you and your business? So in this video, I'm going to break down what those changes and shifts are, what you need to think about when selecting a model for your particular business, especially now with these updates, and what free to paid model is going to work best for you, be it freemium, free trial, 2 groups, or maybe even something else. Now, previously, we only ever had 2 groups. You could have a free group and a pay group, or one or the other, and that was it. And then later on, we got freemium and free trials. And for a long time, nothing really changed. They didn't update anything, and it just was what it was. There were pros and cons to both of them. But now we have a little bit more functionality, and this actually changes things completely. And I've personally tried all of these and run them all with different levels of success. Some I've found work better in different ways, and seeing what clients are doing as well, there definitely is a pattern to what works and what you should do and shouldn't do based on your individual situation. Now, the first thing that we want to look at is understanding what exactly has changed on the Skool platform when it comes to freemium and also for the free trial setup. And the first thing is when it comes to freemium, it now displays the different tier levels. So previously, people would just go inside and it would act like a free group. And then inside, they would see the options to upgrade when you clicked on a course or you clicked on a call or you clicked on something that was locked for premium. But now it looks a lot more like tiers where you have the standard, then you have premium, and then if you want, you have VIP. So you see those from day one, almost like a tech stack when you're signing up for a free trial for some online software, and you've got the free level, and then you've got 2 different payment levels, and people normally go for the one in the middle, or you start with free, but you know at the back of your mind that this is ultimately a paid community, and you are going to have to pay to unlock some of those features. So this basically means that freemium has stopped being hidden behind a paywall. And this is a good thing because it actually makes people realize that this is a paid group. And if you want to get more information, you are going to have to pay at some point. So they're prepared for that mentally. But it's obviously a slightly negative thing because it's no longer like a free community. A pure free community will not be selling to anyone and people will not feel that friction. But now freemium does that. They are actually seeing that a lot like a tiered paid community. And free trial, the shifts that we're seeing in free trial is that inside you can now upgrade from your free trial automatically at any point. So we can now select what content, what courses, and many other different things that we are going to put behind the upgrade button. So we can actually restrict people without having to drip feed and lock things and time unlock and so on inside, which was really quite messy when it came to free trials. Now, essentially, we can let them in, we can give them free reign, but we can decide what they have access to and what they don't. And I've already noticed this myself, even though my new community is relatively small. And if you want help trying to work out the best model for you and going a little bit deeper into this, I will link to free resources and also our group incubator below, just below this video, by a link in the video description. But essentially, I saw that people were starting to upgrade early with the free trial. So people were consuming stuff. If they enjoyed it, they didn't want to wait and they would click upgrade now. So this is really powerful. But what we also have to understand is, as we say in Thailand, this is a bit same, but different. And that essentially means it's similar, but not the same. And normally they're talking about fake goods versus real goods that look identical. And they say it's same, but different. Well, now free trial and freemium are both essentially a free to paid setup. One requires a credit card to get started or payment to get started, and then you have a time limit on it. But the other one is also demonstrating that it is paid, but you can only get restricted access to certain things inside. So they're very similar now, which means, in my opinion, you need to think about your about page and add proof to it. We need to start treating them both like paid communities. You have to add proof, you have to add testimonials, and I think you probably have to put a video on even freemium communities now. We have to treat them very much like that, because if I'm going to see that inside, then the time for really trying to sell it to me was on the About page. So I think we need to step up the quality of our About page and the amount of proof and testimonials that we have, if we can, inside. So those are the main types of changes that we've seen for freemium and also free trial. So the three things that we need to decide when trying to work out which model is going to be best for us, you have to look at it in these three here. So the question is, what do you sell? What traffic do you have or use for most of your leads? And then where does the value live inside your group? And if you answer these three things, you will probably be able to understand the choice of exactly what you do. It will become much clearer and much more simple. Because if I'm selling high ticket, then suddenly I know the best model for me based on that. It really does change how I'm going to operate. If I've got traffic from YouTube, it means that I've got warmer traffic. So therefore, if they're coming inside, and I'm talking about YouTube long form content, then the quality of that traffic is going to be much higher. Whereas if I've got ad traffic, then I know that the quality of that traffic is just not going to be as good. And we also have to look at the fact of what volume of traffic do you command. So if you don't have very much traffic, or your niche doesn't have very much traffic, or you can't personally tap into very much traffic, then that is also going to restrict what you can do. But the other one, and the one that I think many people overlook, is where is the value in your community? So is the value inside the community itself in terms of feedback, networking, and so on? In which case, you're going to need a private community potentially. Or is it in the courses and the calls? And that is really where the core of the value is. And that's what people upgrade for. In which case, you could go for freemium. So that really changes what we can and we can't do based on what you sell, your traffic, and where the value lies in what you actually do. So which model for which situation? And these are not hard and fast rules, but they are the sort of go-to rules when it comes to picking your model. You can still pick any model you want, but you have to accept the reality of the situation if you do pick that model and you don't quite have the need or necessity to match up with that model. So the first thing is high ticket. High ticket, you're generally going to have a free layer, and that's it. Because you don't want that much friction. You want the opportunity to get as many people into your ecosystem and onto a call, or however it is you're selling them on high ticket, be it DM and Looms, but normally it's going to be a call of some kind. So therefore, you just want as many people coming through as possible. So that makes it really easy. You're just going to have a free community potentially, and you're going to nurture people inside. And you're not even going to have any, because you don't want to scare people away. So it will probably just be a pure free community that you sometimes market upgrades in. And obviously, if you're selling inside, then you can decide how you're going to sell it, be it, a premium subscription, a one-time payment, or separate payments off site. And I generally recommend for high ticket taking payments off the platform these days now anyways. You then have low ticket. Now, low ticket, I think for most of us, is now going to be free trial. Now, freemium is good. Don't get me wrong. But for the majority of us moving forward, I think with these new features, if you're selling low ticket, you're probably just going to want a free trial because you can lock things down better now, but you're just going to have to accept a lower conversion rate. The only time I would go against this is if you don't have a lot of proof and you're just getting started. In which case, you're probably going to start with free anyways. You're going to work with people. You're going to work with beta testers and so on. So you are going to want to start with free. Maybe you do want to get a few people through the door first before you move it into being a paid community. But for the most part, I think with low ticket, I would just go with accepting the lower conversion rate, and I would go with low ticket and paid from day one, because I think the Overton window has shifted and people are starting to get used to paying for subscriptions more, especially on the Skool platform. So it's becoming accepted more. People want the better quality and more private communities and more active communities that come with a paid group. And I think that's going to shift even more moving forward. But the issue comes with a small audience. High ticket makes more money. And I've just started a free community, a low ticket community recently because I wanted to test Growth Boost. I wanted to see if I could get more people inside. And I can tell you when your audience is not that large or is a bit more of a trickle, it's very slow growth. So you have to accept that it's just not really going to make you any money, at least not in the short term and potentially not in the long term. You're going to need to at least add a high ticket layer to it in the back end. So you could do low ticket on the front end and high ticket on the back end, but you're obviously going to get fewer people through the system doing it that way. So unless Growth Boost suddenly picks up and starts sending a lot more traffic to us on top of what we're already doing for ourselves, then low ticket is going to be a struggle. But this is the goal of the platform. So as long as you can push some, so for example, if you're getting 100 people hitting your page and they're coming in, you've got 100 people basically hitting your about page, and you've got a free trial and 6 people sign up for a free trial, but 50% of them stay. So 3 people a month actually pay. That means you've got a 3% conversion rate, which is about the normal. So that's about normal. 2 to 3% is the normal amount. So if you do the math on this, maybe you're getting a couple of hundred, maybe 300 people hitting your about page a month with your small amount of traffic and audience. Well, that means you're not going to be making more than about 8 to 10 sales a month, low ticket. And then you've got to worry about the churn rate. Do they stay for 3, 4, 5 months? In which case, how much will it actually compound? And that'll quickly tell you how much you're probably going to make or not make with low ticket. So it's something that you really need to think about there. But obviously, if Skool can double that with Growth Boost, then suddenly smaller audiences become less of a worry, and we can probably do low ticket and a mixture of high ticket with it as well. But the low ticket trap is basically only having a few people, and churn basically starts to eliminate the people coming in, and you just won't be able to compound it properly. So it will just be the trap that you'll actually be looking after a handful of people who waste a huge amount of your time because you're doing something that was meant to be scalable, but you can't scale it. So that's where free low ticket alone becomes a real problem and something that you really have to be aware of. So it has to be a game of math. So overall, high ticket, go with a free layer. Low ticket, most of the time now, I would say actually a free trial, unless you are very much in the beginning and you want to do free and nurture more and get feedback and build the product with them. So that's where freemium is actually quite good, because you can speak to people, you can get more people through the door, find out what they want, and then build a product for them. But otherwise, those are the things I would say. Just make sure that you avoid the low ticket trap. So actually better to do free and sell something more expensive later on. And when the value is the community. So this is something I was saying before. When the value is actually inside the community, this is where freemium will not work for you. And this is why I've become more of a fan of free trial or having 2 communities, because it means you have the private area. And when I interviewed a huge number of my own audience and asked them questions on this, overwhelmingly, they were all using freemium. And overwhelmingly, they all said they preferred a private group when they actually paid. So they weren't doing the thing that they said they wanted, which was fascinating, I thought. So it was a complete disconnect between the model that worked best for them as a creator and the model that worked best for your particular customer. So you have to understand where the value is. And if it is in the community and it is in the feedback, and a lot of the hobbyist and lifestyle communities I see, a lot of it is in the feedback, especially in the fitness industry and so on, because you're giving people feedback on what they're doing, and it just allows you to have that closed area where you can spend time with people rather than wasting a huge amount of people on the free. So you can have 2 communities, and you could have 2 $9 or 1 $9 for the free and a $99 with more things going on for the one where it's actually paid, so that you're paying less to Skool in terms of commission. So it doesn't have to be 2 $99 accounts. It just depends on the level of functionality that you want. But you can grow into this anyways. But if it is the community, then you have to think about it either as free trial or 2 communities with 1 free one feeding the paid one, at least initially, until you can gain some proof and momentum and start to push more traffic into it. And then maybe you could just think about 1 moving forward after that, because you no longer need this one feeding it, as this is improved, got more proof, got more momentum, you've got more traffic coming in, and this just isn't required anymore. And then you have to understand what the model can't fix. And this is where I see a lot of people struggling, especially with freemium and also even free to paid. But it's a general struggle with low ticket. And sometimes this comes down to your offer. Of course, if your offer is bad and people aren't interested, then that's a problem that we need to fix. But a lot of the time, the traffic quality really does matter. And I see it especially with ads. And if ads are going to a freemium group, then they are cold and dead when they come in because they came in for something free and they just are inactive. And you have to work really hard to even get them to do anything. And I think things like challenges and things that make them have to activate, and also automating a lot of things inside, so their momentum does not depend on you being awake or approving them or replying to the comments. So for me, if you are doing freemium of some kind with, say, ads or more cold traffic, where more warm traffic would be, say, YouTube videos where they binge watch your content and they really know you, it's easier that way. People will be more warm. They will respond more. And I've noticed this 100%. But with cold, I've heard people complain time and time again that people just don't activate. They don't respond. They don't comment. They're not interested because they don't know you. And they probably feel that you're going to be trying to sell to them. So they're actively avoiding you, but they did still want the free thing. And that is just a curse of cold traffic. So it's why I actually prefer warm traffic, especially in the beginning when you're building up that proof and improving your offer. This is probably better for testing because it's easier. It is more forgiving in terms of conversion rates, where this, I see people generally just losing money and it's just not good. So I would always start with the traffic, good quality traffic, and it's going to make your life so much easier moving forward, especially YouTube, in my opinion. But the other thing that I think is worth looking at, and that people generally don't think about that much, is that it's not always about the model. All of these models work in some way, shape, or form. So yes, it does depend on what you're selling, the traffic source that you have, and so on. But we also have to look at what it comes down to and what you're doing in terms of which model is actually best. We tend to think which model is best for us, and that is maybe the wrong question to be asking. The real problem is where your time goes, what time you have available, and what is going to be the best use of your time. So for example, I've been thinking recently is I do YouTube. It's very warm traffic. So therefore, is it worth me sending it to a free community, or is it better to go directly to a paid, even low ticket community, and tracking the conversions on that and seeing if they're actually the same? And if they're the same, then why would I have the free community? So we actually want to start thinking about where the income, it's not about activity. It's not about feeling busy and chatting to a lot of people if they're not converting at a higher number into paid. So if I'm doing freemium and I'm getting a 2% conversion rate, and I'm doing direct to paid and I'm getting a 2% conversion rate, is it worth all my time and energy putting that into the freemium group where people get comfortable, they get comfortable with free and they just don't want to upgrade? And if they get comfortable there, and I'm spending a lot of time serving them and trying to activate them and trying to look after them and trying to create content for them, when I could just be creating more YouTube videos to send directly to the paid, well, what do you think is a better use of my time in that scenario? Probably creating more YouTube videos so that my views can actually go up and then I can potentially make more sales. So it is a game of math in that sense that, yes, in the beginning, maybe you need more feedback. Maybe you'd rather have more leads. Maybe you'd talk to people more. If you're selling high ticket, then obviously it potentially makes more sense. But then you could also argue is what is a better use of your time? Maybe actually you should spend your time more on things that are going to get qualified buyers and trying to automate the free. Maybe you look more towards different ways to get those people, be it giving away a freebie and just doing an email, or actually having a workshop that trains them on that and then moves them towards a free trial. But if you automate that first step, so if you decide that a free trial is not enough and you still want something for free, the question is, what free level? There are still many other things out there to us. You could have a workshop even on your YouTube channel that all of your YouTube videos direct people towards, that then directs people towards your free trial. And if they watch that cycle, they're more likely to upgrade to a free trial. Or you could get another third-party platform and you could host a training video that then points people towards a free trial or signing up for a call. So we also have to ask ourselves, is a free community the best thing for high ticket? And though, yes, I would argue in the beginning, getting your cohorts and gradually building out group models is definitely better for scalability. But if you're just trying to get free clients, or should I say high ticket clients, and you just want them to book a call, well, having a YouTube channel and showing your knowledge there, maybe with a direct link to book a call, would be one of the better ways of doing it, at least in the short term, depending on the amount of traffic that you've got. So this is where you have to understand what is the best free layer for you and your particular goals. Because I would definitely start to argue that I would say you're better off creating a lot more content, trying to drive a lot more traffic and keeping things a lot more simple than having a busy, time-consuming community of free that actually doesn't bring in any more sales. It's just like community service then. So it really does depend on your starting point, where you are and what you're doing. So as always, if you've got any questions, you can ask in the comments below. Otherwise, you can go into our community and get additional help there and ask questions there as well as extra training inside. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.